Okay, so I'm Liz, and I am a community animal training coordinator for the Escondido and Oceanside campuses here at San Diego Humane. If you're looking for a new pet and wondering how to choose one, this talk will cover what you should consider before adopting and how to make your new pet comfortable in the weeks that follow. And though I will mainly focus on dogs and cats, these principles do apply to any animal. As Juliet said, please put questions in the chat, but I will ask you to answer a few questions during the talk, so feel free to use that during the talk. You don't need to wait till the end. All right, so we will cover today factors such as where breeds come from, different things that you may not have considered when looking for a pet, what the right pet for you might look like, how to transition them into a home, and how to decompress them once they arrive in the home. Our first section is going to be breeds and genetics. So humans have been breeding dogs for at least 12,000 years. And until recently, dogs were bred for specific jobs: herding sheep, retrieving birds during a hunt, guarding livestock, pulling sleds, lap warmers, etc. We can't train out genetic traits, so we do want to be mindful if you're looking at a purebred dog to think about the genetic traits that they might have, predispositions towards these things. However, looks have been shown to be a poor indicator of breed ancestry in mixed breed dogs. So you'll want to focus on the specific information that the shelter can provide on energy level and personality of the particular dog or cat that you're interested in, instead of focusing on breed stereotypes. So we're going to play a little game. And you do not have to answer these questions. Just think to yourself for these ones. I'm going to show you a picture of a dog, and you're going to think to yourself, what breed is this dog? And then I will show you the DNA test results for that dog. So here's our first one. Little fluffy puppy, maybe not so little. So just think to yourself for a few seconds, what breed do I think? What of many breeds, I'm sure, is this dog made up of? And here are this dog's DNA results. So I would have called this dog some kind of long-haired shepherd. And as you can see, it's mostly Great Dane. So that's a really good example of not judging the book by its cover. All right, here's our second dog. So think to yourself, what breeds makeup does this dog have? And it does have a little clue here, right here. But I probably would have called this dog mostly shepherd. So here's our results. So we're 28% cattle dog, and that's where you see that red and white spots there. And then also chow chow. I see no chow chow to my eyes, right? So that's a really, really good example of how we can get it wrong. So looks are a poor predictor of personality. The point of this little test is we can't really know for sure what the breed makeup is of most mixed breed dogs, because looks have shown to be a poor indicator statistically. And it's important that we recognize and appreciate the animal in front of us and not thinking about what the breed it may look like. It may look like one breed and act completely differently than we would expect. And it's important that we view that dog or cat as an individual and not breed. We have to consider the specific pet in front of us. What is this pet like? Is this pet energetic or a couch potato? What is this particular pet's personality? Another important thing to consider is that shelters are stressful. A shelter is an unnatural environment. And what we call kennel presentation, and that's how the pet looks when you're walking through the kennels at a shelter, is not a very good indicator of how they'll act outside of the kennel. Shelters are very stressful. It's an unnatural environment, and it's unnatural to have so many strangers suddenly appear in front of a pet all day. Some dogs and cats will act the complete opposite at the kennel front than they do when you're interacting with them. For example, I had one dog that I knew that would sit very quietly at the front of her kennel, very, very calm. But then as soon as an adopter wanted to meet her, she was literally bouncing off the walls, just could not be a more energetic dog. You'll also see the opposite. Sometimes they're barking and lunging at the kennel front. As soon as there's not a barrier in front of you, they're completely calm. So your best information is going to come from the foster home or the notes of the people who care for the animals, the staff and the volunteers who interact with that animal regularly outside of their kennel. All right, so our second section is going to be different factors to consider when you are thinking about a specific pet and what might be right for you. So first, you're going to think about behavior. When you first start looking for a pet, you're going to want to write down your lifestyle as it is already. Try to be realistic. If you don't run 5Ks right now, you probably won't start running them regularly just because you have a dog. How much time in your day or your weekend do you have for walks, hikes, or a trip to the park? Are there any deal breakers for you? What if there's a dog that is just glued to your side constantly and you don't like that, or it chases every squirrel in sight? Is there anything that is too old or too young? Puppies and kittens take a lot of time to train and can't be left alone for very long. Senior dogs and cats are often more calm around the house, but they may have medical needs and expenses. What's your ideal size of pet? I know for myself that I like medium-sized dogs, and that's because I've lived with the Chihuahua and the Great Dane through pet sitting, and I know that the Chihuahua I trip over and the Great Dane is just too big for me to manage personally, and that's just individual preference. And is this a pet that you want to join you on a hobby of some kind, camping trips, hiking, lap dog, before you get attached to some kind of dog that you see in the shelter? Think, is this dog suitable for the things that I want to do with this dog? All right, financial considerations. Where will your pet stay when you're out of town? Have you researched pet sitters and facilities that are reputable and will take the best care of your pet while you're away? Have you discussed with friends and family if they're willing to watch your pet while you travel? Some families need dog walkers, doggy daycare, pet insurance, etc. And the larger the pet, the more food they'll consume. So you'll want to consider both monthly and annual cost. Your new pet will have monthly recurring costs, and there's a statistic from 2017 of the University of Pennsylvania School of Vet Med that averaged the first year cost of a dog to be about $3,000. That doesn't include additional costs like dog walkers, doggy daycare, pet insurance, camera subscription, etc., and that all adds up very quickly. And then consider the larger the pet, the more food and treat costs will go up because they just consume more of them. Consider basic medical, grooming needs, and catastrophic medical or preventative care like insurance at a minimum. Next is time considerations. Your new pet will take 1 to 2 hours of your day, food prep, play, exercise, training, etc. And puppies and kittens may take up to 3 hours of your day with extra cleaning and extra training. Considerations for dogs, specifically, where will the dog stay while you're at work? How long can this dog be left alone is something to think about. When you have a new animal, you really don't know, and you might need that extra time to help them adjust. Do you have a plan or a network for management, a sitter, daycare, crate training, and other management while you're away from home during the day? Another important factor to ensure you can keep your new pet is to check housing restrictions. If you rent, you'll want to check your rental agreement for any breed or weight restrictions. If there are restrictions, see if your landlord's open to viewing your pet's resume. You can draft a resume from templates online, and dogs, for example, can pass a canine good citizen test, since landlords are primarily concerned with liability and property damage costs. So you can show that you're a responsible pet owner by just providing that, and the worst that can happen is you're told no. If you own your home, you'll want to check your homeowner's insurance. Certain breeds do require a higher insurance premium. You'll also want to check your area for the limits of animal capacity per household in your particular city. So I looked this up, and a really good example locally is that the city of Carlsbad has a limit of 3 dogs and cats total per household. So that's pretty limiting for some families. Be sure that you can keep your pet in the home from day one instead of finding this news out later on, because pets can be negatively affected by having too many homes in their lifetime. And lastly, we're going to go over physical considerations. So what are your physical limitations? Just be introspective for a minute. Are you on blood thinners or other medication that could impact your ability to have a kitten or a puppy that's teething and has poor impulse control? What do the next 10 years of your life look like? Changes to a living situation, your family or household composition, activity levels, health, physical abilities are all important factors. One example is that I told my 12-year-old son that he couldn't get a turtle because I don't want to take care of it when he goes to college. College is a long way off, but turtles live upwards of 30 years. So that was a no for me. When did you last bring a new pet into your life? We forget sometimes how hard it can be at first, especially with young pets. Right now, I do not have the time or the energy to have a puppy, and that makes me very sad, but that is me being honest with myself. You can still get a new pet. It's just important to ensure that you're being realistic about what you can handle before you're in over your head. Okay, section 3, what is the right fit for you in particular? We're going to talk more about specific factors that affect you personally. Because our emotions can take over when we're in the shelter and we see those adorable little faces, we need to listen carefully to the information that the adoption counselor provides on the animals that you're interested in. Here's some information to factor in when you're in the shelter to see if an animal may be a good fit for you. So number 1 is the history of the pet. If the pet's been in a foster home, that can give you really good information on how they may act in a home. Sometimes, depending on the home dynamics, you might not see a behavior issue in one home that you see in another. For example, some families have someone home all of the time. Then you would have no idea that that dog might have separation anxiety if you have to leave for work for 8 hours. So that's an important thing to think about, but having a pet that's already had a foster home experience can give you some good information. Next is the number of homes. If the pet has been adopted and returned multiple times, you want to think about the reason why. If it's the same reason why over and over, like let's say a pet was returned for being too high energy, is that a good fit for you? Do you want a high energy pet? That's not likely to change soon. Also keep in mind the animals have been moved around into many homes, may take longer to settle in than the average pet. Do they have medical waivers? Shelters only have so much money that they can pour into one individual pet. So knowing this information will help you account for the costs that might come up, like dental extractions for older pets that can get expensive later on, but don't let that stop you from adopting an older pet, because it is a shelter worker's secret that older pets are the best pets. Number 4, are they potty trained? If they haven't been in a home before, the shelter rescue may not know, but this will help you be prepared and factor this in. If you are adopting a puppy, expect to spend the first few weeks doing potty training, and adult dogs may have lived outside and need potty training as well. Number 5, are they comfortable with children and strangers? Many pets haven't been exposed to children or strangers when they're in their critical socialization period when they're very young, and they can be very wary of them, or they may have had a bad experience and it's the only experience they have to draw on. If kids come over to your house, or if you have friends over often, this is something you'll want to factor in. It's something that takes some careful training, and some pets may never be fully comfortable in those situations. How are they with other animals? Sometimes dogs love other dogs, but they give the wrong impression when they play, and some dogs prefer people to other dogs. We are selective too. No one would expect all humans to be extroverts and there to be no introverts, but we're selective also in who we want to be friends with. So just get this information, and that will help you find a suitable playmate if you are looking for a second dog or you're considering a dog that could be a good housemate for your resident cat, etc. All right, next is training and skills. Do they know how to keep 4 paws on the floor? Basic skills can be helpful in the transition period, but if they don't have these skills, then you can just set aside some time for pet training classes. We have a lot of classes available here at San Diego Humane, and you can find them on our website at sdhumane.org/training classes. So that's not a deal breaker for many of us, but you just want to plan for that right after the adoption. Lastly, do they have any behavior problems? You may hear terms like resource guarding. That means that a dog may growl over a food bowl or other items and will have to be managed by being fed away from other animals or people. And cats may be described as shy, which means they may be fearful and take longer to adjust to a new home. We do have a class for these cats called Shy Cat. Sometimes these things may be exhibited in a shelter environment and not in a home, and that is great. But if they've shown it in one context, there's always a possibility that it could happen in the home, and the reverse is also true. Sometimes a pet has no behavior problems in the shelter environment, and they exhibit them at home. And often that's just because a shelter environment is not like a home environment. When you do adopt, just take advantage of your post-adoption consultation. That is a free virtual troubleshooting session with a trainer from my team if you adopted through San Diego Humane. So that is a free service that we're able to offer you. Okay, so how do you pick this right pet? This is where we're going to get a little bit interactive. That is a lot of information that I went over quickly. So hopefully the things that are important to you stood out. And I want us to write down together what our right fit pet checklist is. So pull up a notes app on your phone or a piece of paper. And this list is like a hierarchy of importance, but it's tailored to your family, living situation, wants, and needs. And I would encourage you to list just 2 or 3 things per question. What are your non-negotiables? What qualities are you hoping to find in a match? And what are your preferences? Okay, so feel free to put your ideas in the chat so that the rest of us can consider things that we may not have thought of. That might help us to think of things right now. So my non-negotiables. For me, I already know that an absolute deal breaker for me is that a dog has to be good with kids because I have kids. So that is very cut and dry. The very first thing I think about. Another thing is that I live in a condo and I have to think about noise level. If I have a dog with separation anxiety or a dog that is very, very vocal, that's not going to work in my condo because I know already that the neighbors won't like that. So those are my personally my non-negotiables. Okay, next are negotiables. So what are things that you hope in your head that this pet will do with you? So for me, I really like dog social dogs so that they can help me with dog training. That's a really, really helpful thing that they can help me with, that a lot of dogs that are dog social really enjoy to help me with my work. So that's one for me. And then lastly, preferences. So this is about looks and what you're drawn to. Maybe it's a snaggletooth or long fluffy fur. For me, I like dogs that I call low riders, have short little legs. I think that's adorable. It can be any breed as long as it has short legs. I will love it. I also prefer medium-sized dogs because that, through my experience, has been what I've enjoyed the most, right? So these are things that you kind of learn through being around a lot of dogs. I'll give you another minute to fill that out. 2 or 3 things per category is plenty. Or try not to get too in the weeds because not all pets are going to have all things, right? Sometimes there are some things that we can change based on that pet being a good fit in other ways. Just make sure that you are really holding to those non-negotiables for you. All right. So, oh, 2 4-month-old puppies. Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. Well, good luck to you. I hope they're in classes. Yeah, we have lots of classes for you. Okay. So if you're not sure, which is totally fine, maybe that's why you're here today, I'm going to give you lots of ideas on how to help you figure out what you really do want. This is a really big decision, and if you don't know what you want, and maybe there's too many options, or you're overwhelmed by all the different factors that I mentioned, these are my thoughts. Our shelter has an adoption guarantee. If it doesn't work out, of course we want it to work out, but it is okay if it doesn't work out. If it's not a good fit, that is totally understandable. So we will try to match the right pet with the right home. It's important to not rush the decision. And no one should make you feel pressured to decide right away. If the pet you were looking at was adopted before you were able to make up your mind, then maybe it wasn't the right one for you, or maybe it wasn't the right one right now. Talk it through with your friends and family. This can be a really emotional process. Sometimes we don't want that pet to be in the shelter for one more day. And sometimes we get attached to the idea of what they could be or what they could do for us. And that idea may not always be founded in the truth about that particular animal. If we like the look of an animal, sometimes our emotions get the best of us. And it can help to get an outside perspective from people who know you very well. And lastly, the advice that I wish I had taken myself a few years ago is if it doesn't feel right, wait. I adopted my second dog, even though I knew in my gut that he was not the right dog for me. And my gut was right. I was emotionally attached to a dog that we were never very good fit for each other. Not just me, but he also was not a good fit for my household in particular. All right, so how can you learn what you like? You can offer to watch friends' pets by pet sitting or boarding, and that's a great way to know what you like to live with. I personally do not appreciate super clingy animals. If it wants to be on my lap all the time, we are not a good match. I like them next to me, not on top of me. I learned that from doing a lot of boarding in my home. Consider fostering. You can bring different shelter pets into your home and care for them for a short amount of time, and you'll learn very quickly what type of energy and activity level is right for you. I personally like couch potatoes. Lastly, volunteer at a shelter. You can interact with the animals and see which ones you enjoy spending time with. This is especially helpful if you rent and you haven't gone through the approval process of having a pet yet. And it's also helpful if you have the itch to adopt, but it's just not the right timing, or you haven't found out very specifically what you are looking for yet. That's a really good way to be around lots of fluffy things and not get too attached. Knowing what type of energy and personality you enjoy goes a long way. Okay, so we've picked out our new pet. We are taking them home and we're going straight to Petco. No, we're definitely not doing that. Once you've chosen your new pet, it's time to set them up for success in the first few months in their new home. One study showed that it takes dogs 10 days for their cortisol levels, the stress hormone, to come back down to a normal level after having been in the shelter for just 2 weeks. So I'm going to show you the rule of threes, and that's just a guide that depicts how long it may take for your pet to adjust into your new home, and kind of gives you a general idea of what to expect. It could take more or less time depending on the individual, especially if the animal has been displaced multiple times, like I said before. So here's our rule of threes. 3 days to decompress. In the first 3 days, your new pet feels overwhelmed, is scared and unsure of what's going on, is not comfortable enough to be themselves, may not eat or drink, is shut down, wants to curl up and hide in their crate or carrier or under the furniture, displays destructive behaviors, or becomes anxious when left alone. Don't give up hope. It's only the first 3 days. 3 weeks. They are generally starting to settle in. They feel more comfortable. They're figuring out their environment. They're learning your routines, letting their guard down, starting to show their true personality, and possibly revealing some behavior problems because they're feeling a little more comfortable. At 3 months, they're generally feeling comfortable. They're building that trust with you. They have an increased sense of security that this is home now, and they're beginning to settle into their routine. And that's when you'll really see that full personality and maybe some behaviors you didn't see before. Just like a house guest, they're very well behaved and shut down and polite in the very few first weeks, and then they relax and their whole true personality shows through. And that's lovely because it means they can fully be themselves. If there's anything that I hope you remember in the first 2 weeks of home, first few weeks, is that you need to pay a lot of attention to pay into your trust bank account with your new pet before you make withdrawals. If you make withdrawals, that's things like being placed into a carrier or crate before they're ready, being put in situations where other pets or kids in the home are making them uncomfortable before they're ready, attempting to bathe them right away. Pro tip, you can use a dry pet shampoo until they're comfortable enough to take a bath if they're stinky. Unless they have skin issues, then you'll need to consult with a vet. Think of it like this. If you had a brand new friend that you were just getting to know, and they were hugging you tightly, and they were walking you around and introducing you to all their new friends, and they were so excited, you might think that was a bit much and they were a little bit strange. Your new pet may be perfectly fine with this after they know you really well. But if you take them to Petco on the way home from the shelter, it is not the way to show them that you understand how overwhelmed they may be. To avoid them feeling overwhelmed and like you are not trustworthy, we need to keep it calm and simple at first. You and I know that you're trustworthy, but your pet doesn't know that yet. And all they have to go on is your behavior with them. So we're going to go through 8 tips for establishing a relationship that is more likely to succeed in the first 2 weeks of bringing your pet home. And I know you're very excited in this stage, but remember, these rules don't apply forever. And it can really help to follow them initially. Okay. So, number 1, establish a routine for your pet's daily activities. Create a routine and stick to it. This will help establish a sense of security where your new pet knows what is coming next in their day. For dogs, it might be potty break, training, breakfast, walk, nap. For cats, the best routine is to wake up, hunt and play, eat, groom, sleep, repeat. Draw lots of attention to good choices. Your new pet doesn't know what you expect of them. They've never met a good dog or a good cat before. Keep treats or toys nearby in every room so that you can reward their good choices throughout the day. Did they wait patiently while you're eating dinner? Then they get a sprinkle of treats. Did they choose to relax near you while you watch TV? Then they get playtime. Try to draw a lot of attention to their good choices and ignore the things that you don't love if it's possible, if it's safe and possible. If we're only telling them no, we're not telling them what we want them to do in that context, and our brains naturally tend to focus on what we don't like. So try to retrain your brain a little bit. What are they doing that I like? And really, really reward that. If you have other pets in the home, you're going to want to feed them separately so that they can't wander over to each other's food bowls. They'll be interested in each other's meals, and that's perfectly natural. Food is high value. So set them up for success and not a situation they can't handle. Number 2, maintain a peaceful home environment. Ask your eager friends and family to let your new pet settle in for a few weeks. Keep the environment only to people who live in your home. I know this is a big ask. It's just 2 weeks. This helps your new pet to acclimate to the normal of your everyday routine and helps you to get to know them and their preferences so that when those friends come over and it comes to petting and other types of interactions, you already know what your new pet enjoys. If you have young kids in the home, ensure that they're calm around your new pet and supervise 100% of those interactions. It only takes a second for something to happen that can hurt that relationship. So show them how to appropriately touch your pet, give them treats, and then verbally narrate any body language signals that you see that show signs of stress. And that's how you can teach your child or other kids in your home when to stop that interaction to be respectful of that animal's wishes. Minimize encounters with new people and dogs outside the home. And for dogs, when you're leaving the home, try not to greet neighbors and other dogs on leash. You and your new dog do not know each other very well, and they may not be comfortable with all people and situations. They may feel like they have to defend themselves if they're put in a situation where they feel threatened or uncomfortable. All right, number 3, prioritize training at home before venturing elsewhere. Training classes and lessons are great to establish good habits right off the bat. However, I always recommend waiting 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, and doing training at home during that time. And only 1 week for puppies and kittens because we do have a short window there where they need to be socialized. This ensures that your pet is healthy and is a good candidate for in-person events. It's not the case with pets that end up being overly aroused or overly fearful. Those are not pets that are going to benefit from going right into a group class, right? So they might need a different type of training, maybe online or maybe private. So you'll want to know that before you just sign them up for a class. And while you're waiting to attend formal training lessons, that doesn't mean that you're not doing training. You're doing basic training at home, you're doing manners training. Let's say that your pet is doing something like jumping up on a counter. You can use treats or toys instead of punishers like spray bottles so that you're, again, building that trust relationship. Establish a good association with training and with you. And we do have classes available to help for dogs and cats in person and online, and a lot of free resources for you that you can look up as soon as you get home from adoption on our YouTube channel, and troubleshooting articles on our website under the behavior and training section. Number 4, set boundaries during playtime and avoid overly stimulating activities. If you have established dogs in your home, you're going to let them and your new dog play for up to 20 minutes at a time and supervise these interactions. Being able to separate the animals and give them alone time will keep their excitement levels down and ensure that no one is getting hurt or picked on. So puppies often pick on older dogs, so this is a way that you can really just give them a cool down period. Keep leashes on wherever possible and keep those leashes really loose so the dogs can use their natural body language. But I recommend leashes just in case something unexpected happens, and you can calmly redirect one pet away from the other and keep things under control. Leashes also help you with the puppy. If play sessions become too rough, you can encourage the dogs to relax and settle away from each other and end things on a positive note and give the dogs time to process everything that's happened. Cats should be placed in a safe space for the first few days home, like a walk-in closet or a bathroom, and you'll notice that they're ready to explore more of the house when they are eating sleeping, and using the litter box appropriately, and they show calm, curious body language near the door. Introductions to established cats should go at the slowest cat speed, and either cat should be able to end the interaction if it becomes too much. And we do talk about this in detail in another pet talk on our YouTube channel called Introducing New Pets. Lastly, squeaky toys and balls can cause a high arousal in a new dog, which can lead to unwanted behaviors like mouthiness. So opt for calmer options, chews and enrichment toys, again, just the first couple of weeks. For cats, be mindful of high arousal play if it does lead to biting or grabbing you. All right, 5. Choose calm exercise activities. You're going to want to keep exercise low intensity right now. Your pet just came from a very stressful environment. We're trying to keep their stress levels down and help them to decompress. So for dogs, training and sniffing around for treats in the yard are good options. Visiting a quiet park and walking very slowly, allowing your dog to sniff. At home, try hiding food around the yard or furniture for them to find. Provide lots of outlets for sniffing. It's a stress reliever. 20 minutes of sniffing is thought to equal 60 minutes of a traditional walk. So it's important that they not only have physical exercise, but they're also mentally stimulated so that they don't begin finding things to do out of boredom. Cats and dogs should have about 2 enrichment activities per day is pretty average. This can be a stuffed Kong, a cardboard box with treats inside, close up the box for dogs so that they have to figure out how to open it. Cats can have little paper balls in an open box so that they have to search for the treats. If they perform any natural behaviors, like licking, sniffing, foraging, or digging, that helps to meet their basic needs. And that helps stave off behavior problems that come from having unmet needs. So think of ways that you can recreate these natural behaviors in the home and cycle through puzzles and activities so that you're keeping things fresh. Number 6, learn to recognize and understand your pet's body language. It's important to be able to recognize when your new pet is uncomfortable with the interaction or situation. So we're going to look at some images of comfortable and uncomfortable pets side by side and see if we can all spot together the signs of fear, anxiety, and stress. All right, so we're going to start with 2 dogs that are the same breed. So we're looking at 2 beagles. And I just want you to, in your mind, just kind of compare these 2 dogs and see, why do I know, if I can tell, why do I know that this one is stressed and that this one is not? So I will tell you what I see. First of all, I'm going to look at the eyes. So these eyes are very round. They're looking straight at what they're worried about. That might be the camera or it might be the person behind the camera. But this dog is making direct eye contact, which is a little bit intense, and their eyes are really round. Look at the difference in the eyes of this dog that's more relaxed. We have a nice almond shape here, and this dog is just kind of casually looking off at something, maybe a toy, maybe a person, but it's not even worried about the camera, not looking at it. Then we have some deep wrinkles, what we call facial tension lines here in the forehead of this dog. Same breed, but notice how you barely see any lines on this dog, just right here on the eyebrows because we're looking off to the side. But here, there's no wrinkles. And then I'm looking at the ears. So these ears are really drooped. So that means the dog is kind of holding them closer to its head. And these ears are in more of a natural position here. So not that extreme drooping here. The other thing I'm looking at is that there's a little, what we call a paw lift. So we're lifting one dog up, one paw up. That means that we're feeling a little bit unsure right now. And also this dog to me looks like it's trying to get up from that sitting position, and this person is holding them into that position. Generally, dogs are not primates, right? So they generally do not like hugs. They don't enjoy being completely restrained like this. So just something to keep an eye out. I don't know if it's the hug or the camera that's making this dog uncomfortable, but if you look at this dog here, side by side, you can kind of see the difference there, that this dog is generally overall more relaxed. All right, we're gonna look at one more dog. So if you were to think to yourself, which dog would I want to go up and pet? Which dog would that be? So we may not always be able to identify why, but as long as we're taking an extra second before we walk right into that situation to think, why does this dog maybe look a little uncomfortable to me? You can train your eye, maybe write down a few things that you notice your specific pet does. That can really help you to build that trust bond. So the things I see here are, again, that drooped ear. And with the dog whose ears goes up, you're just going to see the ear kind of crinkle back generally. But here we have the drooped ear. This one's nice and perked up, just in a natural position. We have the eyes are looking away. So that means that we're a little bit worried about the camera or the person approaching behind the camera. And we're turning our head away and saying, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that." Kind of like, I'm going to pretend that's not here. And this dog is looking right at the camera or the person, no concern on their face. Also, I'm noticing that this dog's mouth is tightly closed. That's another sign of a low level discomfort. And this dog's mouth is open in a very natural way. Also, look at the very dramatic weight shift away from the person or the camera here with that shoulder coming all the way out. This dog is also laying in the same position, and it doesn't have that dramatic shoulder roll. So everything about this dog is saying, I'm uncomfortable. All right, we're gonna look at some cats. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when I found these pictures of cats was this very exaggerated dilated pupil. The other thing is that you're also seeing kind of a wide eye a little bit. So if you see these eye shapes are more almond shaped and you have just a regular pupil there, it's not dilated. So this cat's looking pretty stressed. The next thing I see are the ears. So these ears are just a little bit turned down. These are more dramatically turned down. And this is a more natural ear position for a cat that's just curious and hanging out. Next, we're looking at the weight shift here. This cat is crouched and its weight is kind of pulled away from us. And then it has its tail curled all the way around. And then its hair, if you don't know if you can see, but its hair is kind of puffed up a little bit. And then this cat, same, we're curled in on ourselves. We're keeping our tail around, feeling insecure. And this would be a more natural, these would be natural tail shapes here. So you want to see that S curve, the question mark in the tail. And then we're not seeing any puffing up of that fur, and our weight is just neutrally balanced over the cat. And again, this cat's head is turned away, saying, no, thank you. We do not want to approach these cats. They are very stressed. Okay, so find out what the stress signals are for your particular pet. Number 7, allow your pet to initiate contact and interaction. This is one that I really, really hope you're already doing if you do have pets already. When we're meeting a new animal that we don't know very well, it helps them to be ready to interact with us before we reach into their space. So that may be uncomfortable, being approached head on with direct eye contact. For a lot of pets, dogs and cats, is very stressful. And the reaching hands also. If we give them a minute just hanging out near them, we can allow them to enter into our space and show us how they would like to be touched or treated. Many dogs or cats will rub a certain part of their body up against you, and that's often where they would like to be touched. If you can become a student of your new pet and study how they tend to enjoy being approached or touched, if they move away, don't pursue them. This builds trust between you. They know that they can rely on you to only touch and interact with them in a way that they're comfortable with, and that you won't push the issue if they have had enough. Number 8, provide lots of downtime for relaxation and rest. And if you're not a cat person, this cat is yawning. I also did a double take. I'm not as good with cats. It's not yelling at you. It's just yawning. So we want to provide a safe space in those first 2 weeks. That is dark and quiet. Use white noise if needed for them to rest during the day. They should be napping 4 to 6 hours during the day. If they can't settle down, then try taking toys away and keeping them in a single space, like a kitchen or an exercise pen, and giving them chews or a stuffed Kong toy so that they can self-soothe and transition into that calming nap time. We also do some training around this of training with the settling down. That's something you can learn in one of our classes. All right, so that's all I have. I do know that we had some questions come in. Okay. Juliet, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. Let me open up the chat.
Yep. And one thing I'll toss out there is we mentioned a couple of the behavior and training lectures that we have on introducing pets. And there's another one that you called out as well. We also have behavior and training lectures on pets and children and safety between them. We have presentations on body language, on enrichment. We've got all of it. So feel free to dig into those playlists, like Les was saying. And then the only question that we've had come in so far is from Rosa, and she was asking, would fostering get my current dogs used to other dogs in the house?
I mean, I think it depends on the history of your current dogs and how they feel around other dogs. If you want, Rosa, you can unmute and if you have some other background information to give me.
So, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a 15-year-old little Pom, and then I actually have my mom's 8-year-old mixed breed, and I used to dog sit for my neighbor across the street, who had like a little Maltipoo, and he was fine with that. The mixed breed is the one that I think I'm having more issues with now. It seems as he's getting older, he is less he's less able to get along with other dogs.
Yeah.
So,
As he's gotten older, you said?
Yeah, as he's gotten older.
Yeah.
And I mean, my husband's best friend just got a little Maltipoo puppy, and we went over there to visit with them and the puppy was coming to meet him, and he basically like snapped at her. He didn't bite her or anything like that, but it seems like, he used to be so good with it. He loved, the other dogs coming and being here and playing with them, and now he's not to that point. And my husband and I would love to foster dogs, but I don't know if there's something that I should be doing, to make it better for him, or if it's just not something that I should do.
So I first of all, I would kind of consider that, our tolerance for, small children screaming also goes down as we age, right? Because we just become more sensitive, or maybe we like things a certain way, or we just have like a lower tolerance, right? That's why younger people are the ones that have the toddlers and not the older people. So dogs are the same way, where their tolerance levels will change over time, and that's perfectly natural. That's not a problem. I would say I'm not a fan personally of having dogs work it out themselves. I would definitely, if you're going to bring in another pet, I would very, very carefully manage all of their interactions and do training around it. They're not going to figure it out on their own without having a lot of struggle there. So I would just, if you're going to bring in, like a puppy energy, that's a lot to ask of a 15-year-old dog. So probably you want to keep them separate almost all of the time. And I'm not sure that at 15 we're going to have. Go ahead.
I like senior dogs. So if I were to bring another dog in, it would have to be a senior dog.
Right. Or maybe you could say that you wanted to foster, dogs that are in a medical recovery specifically. Some people only want to foster, dogs directly after surgery, and those dogs might be more sedated. But again, you're going to need to plan on doing a lot of management because
Uh-huh.
it's your dog's home, and to maintain, your 15-year-old dog's quality of life, you'll want to be careful that that's comfortable for them too. And that
Yeah.
because they can't just leave, right? So I would probably approach it from both standpoints, and just keep in mind that it's not something that's likely to change, but maybe there are certain types of other dog energies that would work for your pet.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe I should. There's got to be some kind of training that I could do, right, to get him more socialized so that it would help.
I wouldn't think of it as socialization. I think it's more about um, making sure that the energy of the other dog is the energy that he enjoys. And then also um, that you are always giving him an exit, right? An opt out of that situation, so that he's not forced to be in it all of the time. If he's had enough, that he can move away into another room where that dog can't go, something like that. I would think that
Okay.
less of socialization and more as management.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So like just maybe just barriers in the same room, maybe, but just barriers between them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Okay.
that's the way to go, at least to start. And that's the safest way. And then you can also learn from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
One other piece I'll toss out there is having fostered with San Diego Humane before, we do ask that our fosters do keep separation between their owned pets, their resident pets, and their foster pets. And that's for safety and medical reasons and all different things, just to make sure that we don't have any unwanted interactions. So barriers between them is definitely ideal. And you could work with the foster team directly to figure out those pieces. And like Liz says, isn't really as much about socializing them. And you gave us a perfect example of how social preferences change over the lifetime of a dog, because he's already been a social dog. So now he's just kind of he's moving closer to the get off my lawn stage, where he might be comfortable meeting dogs whose energy match his, way that Liz described. But yeah, focusing on, can we manage an interaction that feels okay and feels civil, as opposed to a dog that would be best buddies, is probably the more appropriate direction to go. And if they do end up being good dog friends, that's awesome. But it'll really be a matter of finding the right dog that's the right fit. Yeah.
Okay, Ken and Christine, do you have any puppy questions? Since we don't have a lot of other questions.
Oh, we just had one come in.
Okay. I'm just thinking there's probably a lot there with two 4-month-old puppies there.
So
Oh, here you go. Okay.
I'll read out the
Let's wait
question if you want. Oh,
Go ahead.
got it. Okay. We plan to wait one more week and then begin parallel walking to introduce our 2 6-month-old pups to our 10 and 8-year-old dogs. Yes, is that correct? And then what else can we do to help them get to accept each other before we try playtime in the yard with drag leashes? Love all of that.
Yeah, I love the plan so far. What kind of interaction have they had so far? So you said parallel walking. Are they in completely separate rooms, or are they seeing each other behind like an X pen, or what's the situation right now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So my husband kindly made a separate yard where they can see each other across like a 10-foot gap. So they've been living
Wow.
separately. The 2 dogs we have already can come and go from the house, and we want to get everyone to be able to do that. But so they've been looking at each other, and they haven't been upset about each other, except when the pups came right back from the spay and neuter. I think the smells were different then. But so they're somewhat familiar, and they don't bark at each other very often.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would love to, I will see if I can get your email from community engagement. I
Sure.
will send you our internal behavior team made a parallel walk like handout that's very detailed, and it has step-by-step instructions. that we do send. I do send that out to people for introductions. I would recommend doing this one puppy at a time.
Okay.
Actually, I would set up pairs, just one dog and one pup at a time, and then the other dog and the other one, and kind of very slowly over the course of several days, do it that way.
Okay.
It might go very quickly, right? They might be completely acclimated after one walk and be totally fine with each other, especially since they've kind of had some of that scent sharing already. And I'm sure what Juliet just put in the chat here is the introducing new pets talk that I mentioned earlier. It's really good. It's Juliet, I know it says community engagement, but Juliet is a trainer. And she did a talk on introducing pets. It talks a lot about body language, talks a lot about going really slowly. You want to go the slowest pet speed, and you do scent swapping, and then you do sight. Was it sound? So, okay, sound, sight, you're muted.
You are correct. It is scent, sound,
Scent.
and then line of sight.
Okay, I
Ideal.
got it right, but I thought you said no. Okay, so generally, if they're going to have trouble with each other, if they're not immediately totally fine, you don't have to do all of these steps. A lot of times we do this when it's a cat-dog pair, or if it's two dogs and maybe one dog is reactive and they're having trouble with each other. And then you might have to go through all of these specific steps. So scent swapping, and then sound, and making sure that they're very calm, engaged, curious, no fear signals there, and then sight. So you already have the sight, so that's great. You already have some of the scent, right? Because their noses are so much better than ours. And you have some of the sound also. So I feel like this process probably will go faster for you, but my main caution would just be 2 dogs at a time. And we're not doing the whole pack yet, just kind of slowly work up to that. And
We
then,
love that. We think that sounds much more controllable. So thank
yeah,
you.
yes, and definitely make sure you have 2 handlers, right? There's 2 of you, 2 dogs, and then you can slowly work up to that. And plus, at 6 months old, they probably don't have any walking skills yet either. So you've got that kind of also that wrench in it, where you just have that kind of extra factor. So let's get you some of those other resources too to support you. And you can always reach out to, so our team does the behavior helpline. So even if you didn't adopt them from us, that's to support the whole community. So if you ever want to write in for more ideas to the behavior helpline, or call us and we can talk to you more about some of those troubleshooting pieces.
Oh, bless you.
One other piece I'll toss out. Let's talk about age differences before with Rosa's dogs. With the 6-month-old pups and the 8 to 10-year-old dogs, I would keep those interactions super short. Like, yeah, like 10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
That way they're not getting overwhelmed.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it at the bottom of one of the slides. I put that puppies play most politely for 5 minutes at a time. 6-month-old, you're still kind of a puppy. And also, I don't know if you have signed them up for classes yet. I know I made a quip about that earlier, but if you haven't gotten them into classes, at 6 months is when they're eligible for our adolescent class. So if you want to take them 1 dog per handler to the adolescent class, we should have one starting soon.
Oh, great. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
For us?
Oh, just for anyone.